Hello. Today, I want to give you a geometry lesson in Path of Exile. Now, this could be good news or bad news, depending on your perspective, but Path of Exile gets a good or bad rap, again, depending on your perspective, on how complicated the game is, as most people see the passive tree as a bit of a mess. Well, the good news is that we can squeeze out a lot more power from the base passive tree. The bad news is things just got a lot more complicated. So, my new discovery and or what triggered me to look into this mechanic a little bit more deeply was when I was looking at my Magicifying Deadeye to try to see if I could squeeze out more rarity into the build, as I was looking at the unique jewel, Elegant Hubris, to see if I could convert more nodes to 40 rarity. And when doing this, I wanted to see what tools the build has to offer to maximize this. But this turned into a technology in which pretty much every single build could use, as I will show 4 different tools that could potentially give you 20 nodes worth of defensiveness or damage, with you only investing half that amount. So, those tools in question is the Elegant Hubris, which is a timeless jewel that converts notables on the tree to very strong notables. This, combined with an impossible escape, which allows you to allocate notables around the tree without actually pathing to them, but also the Thread of Hope, which again allows you to allocate passives without actually going to them. And lastly, the Strangle Grasp, which again allows you to allocate nodes without actually pathing to them. So, these 3 possible tools could allow some builds to allocate 7, 8, or 9 different passives without actually pathing to them. Thus, all you do is need to path to a jewel, stick an Elegant Hubris into it, and then allocate pretty much anything you want. So, to better determine which sockets could actually benefit from this Elegant Hubris technology, I looked at the passive tree and did my geometry lesson. So, on screen right now are a bunch of numbers, and the numbers in red are the number of notable passives that a massive Thread of Hope will reach. So, for example, the massive Thread of Hope by the Ranger is giving us 2 passives if we put the Elegant Hubris in the location slightly north of the Ranger. And also, the massive Thread of Hope to the right of Shadow allows us to allocate 3 notables if the Elegant Hubris is in the location slightly north of Ranger. So these are all the red numbers, which vary from 0 to 4.5. The reason for the 4.5 and 1.5 by the Templar and Marauder is because these 2 massive Thread of Hopes allow you to allocate the 30 dexterity and the 30 intellect, which technically are notables that do get converted with the Elegant Hubris, but I felt like only allocating a half of a point, because really you don't save any points when pathing to them, since they already touch the path. But technically, these could be rounded up to 5 or 2 if you are taking the path only from the Scion into the Templar or Marauder area. Now, the yellowish numbers are the number of notable passives that you can allocate by using an impossible escape. So, for example, if you use an impossible escape that has the Pain Attunement, which is just right of the Witch starting area, you are able to allocate 5 notable passives if your Elegant Hubris is in this location. And I will pull up an example tree to show this. So, the example is, you're a witch, and you're a spellcaster. So we start by taking spellcaster stuff, we get some crit, we go to the left, now we pick up some life, and we get an impossible escape jewel in the left jewel socket, and then we go right, we get life, and then we start picking up nodes that are converted from the Elegant Hubris. So, just pathing to the jewel, one of the notables is being converted, but also the impossible escape, which in my previous graphic noted as 5, is converting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different notables. Thus, if you're looking on a per passive point of view, our pathing to the Elegant Hubris jewel takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 passives, but we are able to convert 6 notable passives. Thus, the efficiency that we receive from this technology is insane. But also, along with these 6 conversions that are changed, we can also pick up 2 more converted notables if they're worth the 3 passives that it takes, as we can pick up War Games or Rural Life. Now, I didn't select a specific number for this Elegant Hubris, but there are different websites in which you can calculate what converted notables are best for your build. And now that we've seen the witch example, I will show you an example with Ranger. So here's a typical Ranger passive tree where we are allocating life, spell suppression, bow damage nodes, crit, elemental attack nodes, and leech, but also we are using the technology again, in which we are picking up an Elegant Hubris just north of the Ranger, along with a Massive Threat of Hope to the right of Shadow, and an Impossible Escape to the right of Ranger. Thus, we only need to allocate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 passives to pick up the Elegant Hubris, but we are able to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We are able to pick up 7 different notables that will massively improve our build. And to show this, I actually picked a specific number for our Elegant Hubris, which is 7,500, and this is giving us damage per frenzy, which is good on bow builds, avoid shock, which can be used to get ailment immunity, 80% projectile attack damage, which is good for bow builds, accuracy, another damage per frenzy, spell suppression, and power charge on crit. Thus, all of these 7 nodes that we pick up are extremely strong compared to a normal notable. But along with these 7 nodes that we pick up additional nodes because our massive ring hits additional nodes that aren't affected by the Elegant Hubris. Thus, we are able to pick up Forces of Nature for Ellie Pen, we pick up Trickery for more crit and damage, and we pick up Lethe Shade so we take less damage over time. Thus, instead of 7 notables, we are able to pick and choose 10 notables using these 3 unique jewels. So I will go back to the graphic that shows the massive rings and the number of points that you could allocate. These numbers can be roughly used to show how strong this technology can be used for. Thus, I haven't looked into the thousands of possibilities that could become of combining these 3 or 4 technologies. Again, I haven't talked about Strangle Grasp, but could technically be used for this. But for example, the weakest location is left of the duelist, as there isn't many notables that you can allocate compared to what we previously just looked at, which is north of the Ranger, which you could potentially have many more possible notables. But along with these locations of the Elegant Hubris, I will also show the 3 locations that surround the Scion, which I am using one of these locations for my Magic Find Deadeye. And I have a different graphic to show the number of possible notables that could come from this. So again, this graphic is a little bit confusing, but I will talk through it. So once again, the red numbers are the number of possible notables that the Massive Threat of Hope hits, with once again 4.5 being the largest, being the Massive Threat of Hope just south of the Templar. And again, the half is allocated because one of the notable passive points is the mana regen, life regen notable that can be easily picked up through pathing. Thus, this could be 4 or 5 possible notables being picked up by this Massive Threat of Hope. And the reason there are 3 numbers for each location of the Massive Threat of Hope is because there are 3 Elegant Hubris locations that are possible in the Scion area. And that is top left, top right, and down. And the location of the red will determine this. So the top left gives 4.5, the top right gives 0, and the bottom gives 2 if you are looking to allocate an Elegant Hubris in these locations. And once again, the yellow numbers show the number of notable passives that can be allocated when using an Impossible Escape. And these numbers range from as high as 7 and as low as 0, depending on where your Elegant Hubris is located. And this is different from the previous graph because around the Scion area, there is a lot more density of notables. Thus, it gets as high as 7, as where the previous graph was the highest of 5. So, going back to the passive tree that I currently am using for my Deadeye Magic Find character, I am putting the Elegant Hubris in the northeast location of Scion, as this is the closest location to the Ranger starting area, and I am allocating 3 converted notables just from straight pathing, and that is giving me 40 rarity for 3 passives, 40 crit multi for 2 passives, and another 40 rarity from the pathing getting to the jewel. I am also using a Massive Thread of Hope to get 3 notable passives, which is giving me 80 increased projectile attack damage, another 80 projectile attack damage, and a third 80 projectile attack damage. But if I was using a different build, or if I needed resistances and or power charges on crit, or a whole bunch of other stuff that Elegant Hubris gives, I could potentially increase my number of allocated passives from 6 that I currently am using all the way up to 11 if I were to use an Impossible Escape on the Solipsism location, which is northeast of the Scion, which I could pick up this node, this node, this node, this node, and this node. Thus, potentially, I could get 11 notable passives that perfectly fit my build with only investing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 passive points, which, again, is insanely efficient if you can find the right number and if it fits your build perfect. So, hopefully this video wasn't too confusing, and hopefully people use this technology along with potentially a Strangle Grasp to get insane value from these converted nodes. So, if you have any comments and questions, put them in the comments, and I'll get to them. Thanks.